A hybrid badge means nothing if the numbers fall apart after you factor in real-world miles per gallon battery risk, charging habits, resale pressure, and repair complexity. I'm looking past the showroom pitch and judging these SUVs like actual ownership machines, which is why the strongest warning starts with a plug-in model carrying the kind of recall baggage no family hauler should have. Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe. A plug-in hybrid family SUV should make life easier, not make owners sound like they joined a support group with leather seats. That is my biggest problem with the Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe. The pitch is easy to understand. Premium Jeep badge, nice cabin electric, driving for short errands, gas engine for longer trips, four-wheel drive confidence, and enough torque to make the regular V6 feel half awake. I get why people walk into the dealership and think, okay, this might be the responsible one. It looks upscale, it drives with decent punch, and on paper it promises that sweet little fantasy where you save gas without going full EV. Then, you listen to actual owners, and the confidence starts leaking out fast. People are not just whining about cup holders or a weird menu screen. They keep bringing up reliability problems. Electrical glitches, warning lights, rough gas-electric transitions, transmission behavior tech issues, and poor value for the money. That matters, because this is not a cheap experiment. This is a family SUV that can cost luxury, SUV money, and buyers are talking about trust, consistency, drivability, and whether the vehicle feels sorted enough to depend on every day. The recall history does not help the case either. Certain Grand Cherokee 4xe models were included in a fire risk recall with park outside and do not charge guidance until repaired, and another recall involved possible loss of drive power. That is a brutal combo for a plug-in hybrid that is supposed to feel smart and secure. I like the idea of this Jeep. I like the comfort, the torque, the short-trip electric use, and the fact that it tries to be more than another boring family box. But when owners keep bringing up problems and the official warning sounds like driveway quarantine, I'm not calling that smart money. I'm calling that the kind of hybrid SUV you research twice before letting it sleep beside your house. Jeep Wrangler 4xe. The Wrangler 4xe is the kind of vehicle that makes people talk themselves into a bad payment because the idea sounds so good. Electric torque, open-air Jeep fun, legit trail hardware, gas engine backup, and that little fantasy where you crawl around town on battery power like you've outsmarted fuel prices. I get the temptation. I've driven Wranglers enough to know the charm is real. The upright windshield, the chunky controls the rough little truck. Feel the way it makes a grocery run. Feel like you might accidentally end up on a trail. Add plug-in torque to that, and yeah, it feels clever for about 5 minutes. Then the regular Wrangler stuff shows back up with a bill in its hand. The ride is still busy. The steering still wanders. Wind noise still lives rent-free in the cabin. Cargo space is not as generous as the boxy shape makes you think. Then Jeep adds a hybrid system, batteries, software, charging habits, and more expensive parts to a vehicle that was never pretending to be cheap, quiet, or low maintenance. That is where the whole smart hybrid SUV pitch starts wobbling. Owners have not exactly been whispering about it either. People keep talking about reliability headaches, electrical problems, mechanical issues, warning lights, software, weirdness, service delays, and that ugly feeling where you like the vehicle but do not fully trust it. That is a terrible place to be with something this expensive. A Wrangler can get away with being crude because that is part of the deal. A pricey plug-in Wrangler with recalls and drivability complaints has less room for excuses. The fire risk and loss of drive concerns make the warning harder to brush off. I like the Wrangler 4xe as an idea. I like the torque. I like the weirdness. But if the hybrid system turns Jeep character into Jeep stress, that is not progress. That is just paying extra for the same attitude with more ways to ruin your week. Mazda CX-90 PHEV. The CX-90 PHEV looks like Mazda finally walked into the three-row SUV fight wearing a tailored jacket instead of gym shorts. I actually like a lot about it before the hybrid system starts doing its little routine. The cabin feels upscale without begging for luxury brand approval. The driving position is better than the usual family hauler throne, and the steering has that Mazda weight where the front end feels awake instead of sedated. Park it next to some soft, bloated crossover with a giant screen and zero personality, and the Mazda immediately feels like the one built by people who still care how a vehicle moves. Then the plug-in part starts making the whole thing harder to defend. The idea is great. Short electric trips, gas backup, 3-row space, premium feel, and better efficiency without going full EV. Nice plan. But owners and long-term drivers keep pointing to the same kind of frustration. The gas-electric handoff does not always feel smooth. The power delivery can feel uneven, and the hybrid system sometimes acts less polished than the rest of the SUV. That bothers me more here than it would in some cheap commuter box, because Mazda is clearly trying to sell this as a more refined upscale family machine. If the drivetrain feels like it is still learning the job, the fancy stitching does not save it. The packaging also needs a reality check. The third row is tight, cargo space behind it is limited. And if you are buying this for real family duty, that matters every single week. I like the look. I like the chassis. I like the fact that Mazda did not build another anonymous appliance with cup holders. But the PHEV version feels like the ambitious kid who studied hard and still rushed the final answer. The SUV underneath has taste and talent. The plug-in setup is the part that makes me pause before handing over real money. BMW XM. Label. A 6,000-pound plug-in hybrid should not feel like BMW dared itself to build the weirdest Jimbro SUV possible, but here we are. The BMW XM label is fast, expensive, heavy, complicated, and somehow still trying to convince everybody it belongs in the smart hybrid conversation. I have no problem with ridiculous power. I like ridiculous power. But when a vehicle starts acting like a super SUV, luxury flagship, electric commuter, and rolling status symbol all at the same time, somebody needs to check the receipt. The numbers are hilarious in the way only modern performance SUVs can be hilarious. Twin-turbo 4.4-liter V8 electric assist all-wheel drive, and about 738 horsepower in label form. That is serious muscle. Mash the throttle and yeah, this thing moves like it is personally offended by physics. But the plug-in part is where I start squinting. Around 30 miles of electric range sounds useful, until you remember this thing turns into a thirsty V8 brick once the battery is low. 14 miles per gallon combined after the charge is gone is not exactly saving the planet. That is more like wearing running shoes to eat an entire steakhouse menu. And the packaging. That is where the XM really starts annoying me. This thing is over 201 inches long, but you only get around 18.6 cubic feet behind the second row. A Golf GT. Gives you more cargo room back there. I wish I were joking. If I'm looking at a huge SUV and still thinking twice before throwing in luggage, range bags, groceries, and random family junk, we have a problem. The XM label has a presence, no doubt. It feels special, looks expensive, and pulls hard enough to make passengers shut up for a second. But compared with something like an X5M, which gives you cleaner performance, SUV energy, better practicality, and less, why did BMW overthink this drama? The XM starts feeling like a flex first and a usable SUV second. That hybrid badge might impress somebody at a valet stand, but in actual ownership, it is doing a lot of acting. Ford Escape Plug-in Hybrid. The Ford Escape Plug-in Hybrid feels like the kind of SUV that wins the argument only if your life is perfectly organized, and I do not know many people living like that. On a good day, it is clever. You plug it in at night, leave the house with a full battery, knock out your commute, hit the grocery store, pick up the kid, and barely touch the gas engine. That 37-mile electric range can absolutely work. I am not going to act like that number is useless. For the right person, it turns the Escape into a quiet little errand machine with cup holders. But then, reality walks in wearing muddy shoes. Ford made the plug-in version front-wheel drive only, and that choice annoys me every time I think about it. I have checked enough small SUVs and driven enough rainy back roads to know people do not buy these things just to sit higher in traffic. They want some kind of all-weather confidence. The regular Escape Hybrid can give you available all-wheel drive and still return strong fuel economy. So the plug-in asks you to charge religiously, pay extra, and give up AWD. That is not a no-brainer. That is a homework assignment with floor mats. The price does not exactly calm me down either. Around $38,400 before options puts it in a zone where buyers start cross-shopping bigger, nicer, or more flexible SUVs. The 14.4 kilowatt-hour battery can recharge in roughly 3.5 hours on a level 2 charger, which is fine if you have home charging. On a regular outlet, you are looking at around 10 to 11 hours, which means forgetting to plug in basically turns your smart purchase into a heavier escape with extra excuses. I do like the usable cargo space about 34.4 cubic feet behind the second row, so I am not tossing this thing in the trash bin. It can work as a family runabout. But the whole deal depends on one fragile little assumption that your charging setup and daily routine never get messy, and car ownership loves making clean plans look stupid. Kia Sorento plug-in hybrid. Three-row SUVs are funny because the brochure shows happy families, clean luggage, and smiling kids, but nobody shows the dad standing behind the tailgate wondering where the hell the cooler is supposed to go. That is where the Kia Sorento plug-in hybrid starts getting exposed. At first glance, I get why people like it. It has all-wheel drive, 6 seats, a nice cabin, a useful plug-in setup, and that Kia trick where you sit inside and immediately go, okay, somebody here actually tried. It feels modern, it feels polished, it does not feel cheap. But real ownership does not care how good the dashboard looks. Start throwing life into it, and the Sorento PHEV gets tight fast. With the third row up, you are looking at about 12.6 cubic feet behind it. That is not a family road trip space. That is grocery bags, a couple of backpacks, and maybe one soft duffel if everyone behaves. Fold the third row down, and you get around 45 cubic feet, which is much better. But then congratulations, your 6-seat family. SUV just became a 4-seat hauler with extra steps. I have checked enough of these smaller 3-row SUVs to know the third row is usually where comfort goes to apologize. The plug-in part is good, but it is not magic dust. Around 30 miles of electric range can save gas if you charge every day, and the 1.6-liter turbo hybrid setup makes 261 horsepower, so it is not gutless. Still, after the battery is drained, you are dealing with around 33 miles per gallon, combined in a vehicle that weighs roughly 4,600 pounds. That small turbo engine is doing a lot of grown-up work. I do not hate the Sorento PHEV. That is the annoying part. It drives easily, feels nicer than expected, and the warranty gives it some backbone. But when the price starts climbing into the high $40,000 and mid $50,000, the question gets ugly fast. Are you buying a clever plug-in family SUV, or are you paying near bigger SUV money for a third row that taps out right when life gets busy?